Hey, morning. So we are now episode 2 of season 2 of Off Lead with Emma and Stuart and Emma. And this morning we have a special guest. We've got Terry Arnett. It is Terry Arnett, not Terry Arnett, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'll get all sorts of pronunciations, but yeah, that'll do.
Maybe it's not.
No, it's got an E in it. No, it's
Definitely got an E in it. Terry Arnett.
Not related then.
And it's not a knit either. Sometimes get called.
Yeah. So just quickly, from my point of view, for introducing Terry, I met Terry working at Crufts. I think the first time we met a few years back.
It'd be about 2018 in my
I think he was
helping Crufts, but I've seen you before when I was working in my previous life. If that makes sense.
Exactly. We got sort of talking there, and I found out that Terry is. You're now a retired police officer now, are you, Terry?
That's it. Yeah. So I'm employed as police staff with a different police force, but previously I was serving police officer and a dog trainer within the police. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So that's where we sort of got talking. So and that's why I sort of asked Terry to come on today, because I was interested in the sort of the dog training part of it, and why Terry decided to take that up as a career path, really, because obviously joining the police is big enough on its own, but then to take on dog handling as well.
And I was super excited when Stuart told me. So although I do a lot of agility, my core business is dog training and behaviour work.
Yeah.
So this for me is like, wow, I'm excited. I think you may actually hear a quiet listening Emma today, which will be a bit unusual, but yeah, really interested. So welcome, Terry. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So what I'll do, Terry, for you, why did you choose dog handling and the training part of?
So I think it's probably easy just to explain that as a police dog handler, you have to have been a police officer previously. So there's I do get a lot of people asking me, can I go straight to be a dog handler? And currently in the modern world, if you want to call it that, it's not quite evolved yet that the police recruit specialists straight into roles. You have to have done sort of a basic policing, done the basic job first, if you like. Yep. So historically that was like a 2-year probation and then a bit of groundwork and get to know the job, and then you could apply to be a specialist role. Obviously it's changed, recruitment's changed massively now, so they do degree and degree entries and all this sort of way above my sort of knowledge and pay grade now. So but for me, I joined at 19. My dad was in the police, so I'd sort of grown up with it. My dad was in the CID. I'd grown up with that sort of mentality and that sort of background. If I'm honest, could have gone either way at school. I was a little bit naughty at school. So I think my mum and dad were quite relieved when I went down that route, not the other way. So I joined, just did my groundwork as a normal police officer. But I don't know, as a kid, I was always, my dad was obviously, if you like, in the sort of 70s, 80s era, 90s, he retired. So it was like the Sweeney era and that, for those that are and life on Mars type world. But for me, the dogs are always the thing. So as a kid, we'd go to like the social clubs that are around then, and dog handlers would be in the car park of the Knicks, and they'd have a dog, and I'd like, oh, can I have a look at your dog? And they'd sort of get the dogs out. I can remember one old guy, Bill Jessamine, and he had an old dog, Sam. And as a kid, it was like, when you're sort of doing the job, as a kid, it was like magic. This dog, if I hid keys somewhere, he could go and find them. It's like flipping it. So this is like magic, And when you sort of learn and you do the job, your human scent, the dog pairs the odor to the reward and all that sort of stuff. It's not as magical perhaps, but as a kid, sort of age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it was phenomenal. Dogs.
I actually still think it's quite magical. Sometimes I look at our dogs and I'm like, you are way cleverer than we are as humans.
100%. I think we're always learning, aren't we? But I think it's just me I'm trying to sort of, as a kid, it was like, this was like amazing, and that was it really. And I can remember there's programs on the TV, and I think Z Cars or one of them years ago, the old ones, and there was a dog on that, and that was like, I was obsessed with it, It really, I just had this thing, and my mum actually, funny enough, recently, I wish I'd got me to show you, she found in the loft some old school reports, what my mum at 8 years of age was doing in the loft. I don't want to know, but anyway, they found some old school reports of mine, and in there, I think in my primary, I want to be a police dog handler, so it was there.
Wow.
So, and that was it. So joined the police, and then again, I suppose that magic of working alongside dogs. The probation double up the dog handler. That was it. So, and we had a great dog handler on our shift. In them days, you actually had a dog handler on your shift rather than as it is now, where you've got, you know, a few dog handlers on duty covering a massive force area. You actually have your own dog handler. And that was it, really. I was just hooked. So the job had other ideas. I wasn't quite as thick as I thought I was as a kid. So I did quite well in the police, and they were trying to push me for promotion.
I think we were thick as kids.
I think I've learned more as I've got older. I think, you know, I think you're more mature and you're
older wise.
Doing all my teaching qualifications, that sort of stuff. But for me, you know, I sort of they were pushing me towards CID and promotion because my dad was down that route, and I had that type of mind. I was quite good at that type of work, investigation type work. But I just stuck to my guns, and I said, no, I want to be a dog handler, and that was it. So you have to go through a suitability course, which is about, in them days, it was about a week at the training school in West Mids. I was in West Mids Police. So that was at Harborne at the old dog training school. Past that, and then the force went through a whole change. So I thought I'd got there, and then they shut the door on it, and they reduced the dog section. So I was like, oh, flipping it. So back to square one, sort of regrouped, and went down some of the specialist roles that I knew would support my dog application later on, and couldn't get very quickly to the end. 96, got onto the dogs, served from 96 to, so I joined in 87, served from 96 to 2017 on the dogs. So had quite a good run on it, to be fair.
Okay, so how do they match you? So what's the process of
So the process then was more around confidence of animals and around that the working animal, if you like, the working dog. So we went on. It was like a sort of fitness-based thing as well. So it was your usual things that you'd expect from a suitability course within the police or the military type thing. It's putting you under pressure, seeing how you dealt with it. Seeing what your confidence was like, you know, going into a block of kennels with a load of German shepherds, as it was then, barking and snarling at cages, you know, kennel doors, saying, right, can you get that one out and go and put it on the van? And it's whether you had the confidence to, you know, whether you were stupid enough just to bowl your way in, or whether you had a bit of an aptitude to sort of try and win the dog over, or ask the right questions to say, is this dog sociable? You know, does it like food? Will it come out for a ball? You know, all this sort of stuff. Just general, I suppose, stuff that we in the dog will take for granted, but when you don't know a lot about dogs at that time, you know, it puts people under pressure. And then it was around sort of handling and teaching the dog. I think the fundamentals we did were like teaching dogs to track. I had a dog called Danny that actually went on to be an operational dog, and he's quite.
So sorry, just to go back a bit. How did they match you with Danny, or do you just bond? Because I know that
on the suitability. Yeah, on the suitability, you're just thrown in with a dog, so there's no chance to bond as such. So It's not like being prepared for a dog for a course that you're going to then train and be the handler of. The suitability is just literally, these are spare dogs in the kennels. They were generally dogs that were under assessment or already past assessment to be working police dogs. But they were, so you didn't, but what I'm saying is you didn't get opportunity to sort of say, well, that's going to be your dog for the next 14 weeks.
Okay, right, I see. I guess
this was a week-long course or a week and a half. And then they would just literally, you know, swap the dogs around, or you'd run for the operational dogs, you'd hide for operational dogs.
What an experience, Terry.
Yeah, it was hard work. It was a hard course. And then
of course.
I had to do it again in 86.
Did you get bitten?
Oh, I've been bitten hundreds of times, yeah. So, yeah, you get the odd nip or rag on the clothing sort of thing.
They teach you that. I think that's what dogs teach you. You know, I'm running my business as a franchise now, and I'm insisting that any dog trainer goes and get 500 hours of hands-on experience, because I think it's that sort of thing that teaches you. The dog teaches you, and the dog, you listen to the dog, don't you? I'm in awe of what you're doing or done.
Look, I think we learn off each other. You know, the police was very insular many years ago, I think, if I'm honest, and we were very much, this is how we do it, we're sticking it to this way. And then I look at this now, you know, and like so many years later, I'm sitting here having a Zoom meeting with you guys, you know, and we're more embracing of other people's ideas, and we've got to be like, we've got to evolve, you know, you've got to, and I've always been that way thinking, you've always got to be looking at new ideas and trying new things. The problem, the only sort of little downside of that for us is that we only have a set amount of period of time to train a dog and a handler, which is where I get frustrated. So, you know, as it is currently, I'm running an initial course at the moment, and I have 12 to 13 weeks, and that's it to get a team out on the ground. Whereas,
do you train the people to train their dogs, or do you?
Yeah, so I've got to do both. So I've got to train the person to handle the dog, and also fundamentally I'm responsible for the dog's development as well at that point, because like the handler I've got at the moment, the new handler I've got, has never had a police dog before. He's got a pet dog. He's never had a police dog. So it's developing them as a team, if that makes sense. Whereas
it makes total sense.
In the agility world, for example, you could spend a couple of years before you're happy to compete with a particular dog, because as I know, with like talking to you, Stu, and to Kate and Paul and all those three, you'll spend hours and hours teaching contact points only, or the weave only. You know what I mean? Whereas I haven't got. I've got to literally go to work on a Monday, and my sort of criteria is, right, we've got to get through this, and this today, and that leads on to tomorrow and the next day. And you're looking for that constant development, and it is hard. Whereas again on the continent, 3 years. I think in Holland and Germany, sometimes up to 3 years before dogs go out on the streets, because they do all the groundwork first.
Okay.
But it's just different here, and time and money, I suppose, restraints. So
yeah, there we go. So one of my questions, right, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, sorry. So we all know that the dog training world is split down the middle. I have someone quite local to us that still trains prong collars and has a massive following. He has got a big American following, but he's also got a massive UK following. Some people love it, some people hate it, and I don't want us to talk about whether it's right or wrong.
No.
But how are police dogs trained?
So
is it all motivation and positive, or is it?
So, I can't remember exactly what year it was, but yes, in my day we had access to prong, and we had access to shock collars or stimulation collars. All of them. They were removed from our training tools many years ago now by ACPO, as it was then, now the MPDC. So anybody caught using those on a police dog will be in serious. They'll be serious now. You're looking at.
It made me cry, Stuart.
Yeah, you make sure that a lot.
No, that's amazing. I think that's fantastic, because I just don't know. So that's amazing.
The problem we sometimes have in our world is the type of dog that I'm looking for to be a sound police dog, because we do expect a lot from our dogs compared to, that at the end of the day, they're an extension of us sometimes in a fighting situation. So we do expect a lot more of our dogs than. No, and I don't mean I can you perhaps in your world. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes the dogs that we have come from the continent where that level of compulsion has been used, so it is very difficult for us then, because where do you go? How do you motivate a dog that is used to that type of stimulus?
It's been shut down as well.
When all your offerings are ball, and they're in that sort of blocked
and
out
they don't know how to play either, because that part of it would have been shut down, wouldn't it?
So sometimes it can be frustrating, but as I say, in our world they're totally banned from us, and I suppose it's a good thing, because we're people look on us as an example. We're supposed to be. We set an example. We enforce legislation, and so if we're not, this is in anything, not just in dogs. If we're not conforming to the legislation, getting into Boris talk here, aren't we? If we're not conforming to legislation, then have other people to do it as well. So
exactly that.
Yeah.
So when you've trained the dog, etc. Just give us a little bit of examples of situations that you might train them for. So I would imagine some of these dogs obviously literally have to be bomb-proof, don't they?
Yeah. So I mean, so we have two forms of dog. You've got general purpose dogs. You've all seen this thing that Crufts in the arena, the big display. So you've got two little worlds really. You've got what we call the general purpose world. So they're your Malleys, your German Shepherds, your patrol dogs, for want of a better description, general purpose. And then we have our specialist roles, which are drugs, firearms, explosives, cash, blood, crime scene. That's crime scene working, or cadaver work, body recovery. So there's lots of specialists. They tend to be the gun dog breed. So mules, Labrador, collies, that sort of. Although collie's not a gun dog, but I'm coming from the high drive, play drive dogs. I think they're all high drive, but those sort of dogs that have got that little bit more. They want to keep working.
Scent work as opposed to
Yeah,
kind of predatory. Yeah.
I mean, there have been trials in the country, and there have been forces that have used general purpose dogs as drugs dogs. So there's nothing really to say you can't do it. I know in the States they do use they'll use a Mally as a patrol dog, and then it will go and search a car or an area for drugs. You can imprint on those odours on a patrol dog. I think in this country we've shied away from it, probably because of health and safety. I think is my view. You know, if you've got a look at some of the dogs I've had as patrol dogs, you know, or general purpose dogs, if I put them into a situation where I wanted them to say search a car for drugs, I think there would have been an element of confusion, even though I would use trigger words and, you know, signals or whatever. I think the dog would get confused, and there's a tendency the dog would probably could bite somebody, or you'd obviously manage a scene. So I think in this world we've just tried to keep it simple. The drugs dogs,
and that's because you want to keep them focused, I suppose, don't you? So you don't want, like you say, you don't want to blur those lines, do you? If you've got a dog that just, especially if you like a patrol dog, like you said, you want them focused on their job. And if they're getting that little bit of confusion, going, "What do you want me to look for the drugs, or am I staring at this person, or what am I doing?" Yeah, I can see that you need that.
It's more the stimulus side of it that worries me. So it's like you're at the side of a road, and I don't know, someone's pulled you over and they want you to search a car or an area where they think somebody's thrown something away. I look at like my last dog, you know, if then the person that they've stopped becomes a bit leery and a bit loud, the dog's focus would go from what I've asked it to do to the person, which is what I want it to do. But if I've got a spaniel, we don't give monkeys what they're doing. He'll just run around. Where's my ball? Where's my ball? So I think it makes that a lot easier.
So my brain has kind of gone, right, okay, so dogs that maybe do like competition obedience or heel work to music. Now we all know that in the olden days people would say that you couldn't do both, but now there's lots of dogs that do both. However, the individual has to work massively on different things, because heel work to music and obedience is close contact, be with me, and agility is be away. So and I know, I work with people that do competition obedience and heel work to music, and the way they've been trained sometimes. So I've got one trainer who releases the dog to a thrown tree. Drives me up the wall, because from an agility, she's doing this with her arm to point to the dog, and the dog's looking on the floor for the treat, So it's I guess is it like you can't be a jack of all trades, can you?
I think so, I think that's how I look at it. I think, why complicate life? Make it simple for you as the handler and the dog. What we're not, it's like a drugs dog. You could teach a drugs dog to find all the substances. You wouldn't take long to imprint one dog onto all the drugs that we have to find, explosives, blood. You could teach the dog to do the whole lot, but then it's, then you get into the world of, well, certainly in our world where explosives are concerned, if I teach a dog to find cannabis, for example, or heroin, and it finds it, how do I know it's not indicating on an explosive device? So that's why we don't prepare. So you can do all these things.
It's time and dedication for that training.
It's the consequence of indication for us. It's what is the dog indicating? So and sometimes you can't create an indication that tells you, that's it doesn't stick its right paw up for drugs and its left paw up for explosives.
But you could train it if you had
probably
time.
Train it, but it'd take a lot of doing, wouldn't it? But what I'm
saying. So what sort of work did you do, Terry?
So I've done a fair bit. So I started with obviously just a normal general purpose dog. I had a drugs dog in '97. I was one of the first uniform officers in Westminster to get a drugs dog. Historically, the dogs had only ever been with our dedicated drug squad, but they were you never saw the dogs, to be honest. Because some of the jobs I'd done in waiting to go on the dogs gave me an insight into that world, I was able to put together enough evidence to say, why don't you trial it? So four of us were selected, 4 of us got dogs, and we smashed it. The dogs were on demand all the time. So I've had 2 drugs dogs, a Labrador and a Spaniel, and then I had a Lab Retriever Cross. He retired with me in 2017.
With you?
Yeah, they all live at home. Yeah. So he was trained in human remain detection and blood as a VR dog, and then GP dogs. I think I've had, can't remember now. I can name them all, but So I've had, I think, 5, but there's a variety. German Shepherds, 1 Mallee, a
Up in the
Rottweiler.
morning and like, which dog am I going to take today?
Yeah. Oh no, sadly they'd all gone. Some have moved on before I had the next ones, but yeah, yeah, you do get attached. You know, like I said, it's probably. I still argue, and I know I'll probably get people argue against me, but I think there's nothing like the relationship between a police dog and a police dog handler. There's nothing in the, because I spent, you know, an 8-hour shift patrolling with a dog, and I can.
It's your best friend, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, that's my partner, you know, and I can think of situations where, you know, I can think of a couple of jobs as I'm talking that spring to mind. I think, so glad I had that dog on that day, because my own, you know, I'm pretty sure
I got your back, you got mine type thing.
Yeah, definitely, you know, sixth sense that they've got, you know, the situations you get asked to go into, or, you know, your colleagues expect you to go into, you know, if you haven't got a dog there.
I think I'm bananas when I say this, Terry. Sorry, Stuart, I interrupted there. So obviously I do a lot of pet dog behaviour work, etc. I read dogs. I don't listen to what people are telling me.
Yeah.
And you know, so I'll look at a dog's behaviour and I'll be like, have you been to the vet? You know, and they're like, what? There's nothing wrong with the dog. And you're like, that dog is definitely trying to tell you something. You know, or say a little example this morning, I've got a working cocker. I was clipping my terrier on the table and my clippers broke. Okay, so like, just slightly irritating, you know, knowing I've got to get up here and my iPad's backing up and like, Spaniel is now jumping up onto the chair, onto the table, onto the chair, onto the table, onto the chair, to the table, just because it felt my emotion switch and it was trying to diffuse the situation. And when I go into a home and say, you need to calm, I don't say, you know, you need to calm the fuck down, is what I want to say, but you know, chill out. And your dog will calm down, and people think they don't realize sometimes, layman people, dog people do, but you know, you're trying to educate that your emotion, just calm down. So I can see what you're saying, that dogs going into a high volatile situation are going to pick up on that immediately, aren't they?
Funny enough, I've had this same exact conversation the weekend just gone. This week just gone, I've been on holiday. Met up with some friends in the New Forest, and they've got one of my friends got a collie, and she's the collie's he's a lovely dog, and he's lovely, but he's can be quite reactive. But the reactiveness is from her, you know. I said to her, you causing this, you are causing it. I said, so the analogy I gave her was like, you know, as a rule of thumb with a police dog standing in a crowd situation, as an individual without a dog, you'd start to feel anxious if you think, it's going to kick off here now. Am I going to be all right? All these things are going through your mind, not consciously, but subconsciously. You're thinking, it's going to kick off now. Am I going to be all right? Is a fight going to start? Am I going to, you know, all that thing's going to be computing. No matter how confident you are and how skilled you are at dealing with that thing. So when you put a dog, an extension of you, then to a lead and to the dog, the natural thing that we all do as police dog handlers is we pull the dog in close. You pull it in close, or you grab its collar, because the one thing you know then is when this stimulus starts from the crowd, the dogs, through their training and their
into protection, it's in their body, it's in the blood.
And they very quickly learn when the rowdiness starts. I may get a reward, as in I might get a chance to nip somebody. But you don't want them to bite the wrong people. So naturally, you then pull the dog in close because you think, I don't want the mistake.
I could borrow your dog sometimes.
Yeah. So the dogs read, don't they? The dogs naturally read off you, and that's what I said to her. I've said to my friend, I said, you're creating. As soon as you see another dog come in, you're panicking. You're pulling the dog in close. The dog thinks, well, you're not happy. You're feeling on edge. So if you're on edge, I'm not comfortable. So now I'm going to react.
I also think it's slightly deeper than that as well, isn't it? So I work a lot with reactive dogs. Generally what I do is I do what you do. I'll take the dog and just take it for a walk. Just go away, owner. And then you can see if the dog's actually truly reactive or, and sometimes, you know, old school, oh God, you know, we could honestly talk for hours about this, but, you know, say like pack, if you became a pack dog trainer, you know, don't allow your dogs to sleep on the bed, don't allow to do this, don't allow to do that. So coming out of COVID, I've dealt with a lot more aggression than I would do normally, and I'm talking like proper bites. So I've been training for 12 years and I've had more in the past year than I've ever had. And I do think that it's because we became nomadic and lived like, dare I say it, I'm going to get, you know, everyone's going to go, oh, she's a pack dog trainer. But, you know, we lived as packs.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Ah!
That's all right, we're back on.
Oh, God. Something to do with my iPad, sorry. And we lived nomadic, didn't we? And our emotions were very different. And we would go from one room to the other. And I know in my house, I had 3 dogs and my son took one, I took another, and Stacey took another, and they would walk that dog just to kind of keep us all focused. And I do think that the reactive and aggressive dogs that I'm dealing with is their owners become a trigger. So not necessarily the cause, but a trigger. But because we've lived in this nomadic pack-like state, the dogs have just gone into the natural protection, and you know, it's really deep at the moment.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. There's definitely a lot to learn from what's gone on with this COVID thing. So, you know,
I don't think it's been a good thing for dogs.
No, I don't think it's been a good thing for people either. I think we've lost the tolerator the people as well. I think that's certainly
toleration levels are really low, aren't they, at the moment?
Far less tolerant of people.
Do you think you may know this, Terry? Do you think it's like a minor PTSD?
I don't know if it's PTSD as such, because I think it's. I wouldn't say it's PTSD, but I think it probably goes somewhere. It is a sort of mental state thing.
Yeah, so we've been in that, and now you're having to come out. PTSD
is usually as a result of a shock thing, isn't it? So something.
Yeah, it's like a trauma, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's just basically we've lost our people skills a little bit. We've become a little bit. I use the word selfish, but I don't think we weren't selfish as in, you know, when I look at some of my neighbours who would like them going to the shops, do you need anything? You know, when we could only go shopping on a 1 day a week, they'd text and say, you know, do you need anything? I'll drop it on your doorstep. So I don't think we've become selfish in that manner, but I think we've become very selfish with our time around people. And that obviously impacts on the dogs that we have then and the way we tolerate them around.
I gave up my business.
Yeah, I think
coming out of COVID, I did nearly give up.
Yeah, I think it's communication. I think we've lost an ability to communicate with each other properly, and it'll come back in time. I think.
Yeah.
But people relax, but I think people are still a little bit on edge. Some people are still on edge.
Well, and of course we've got the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. So and I think people now believe that anything is possible, whereas before.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the world's very stressed at the minute, and it's impacting on all of us. I believe that, 100%. So
before we finish, Terry, just a quick question on retirement from the dog's point of view.
Yeah.
So when they've been in active service for however long,
because
obviously they can't go on forever. So is there a certain age, and then if there is an age, what happens after that for them?
Right. So basically, as a general purpose dog, around about 8 years of age, I'd say is the average age that we retire. Obviously, if there's a health issue, then it's sooner for some, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got animal welfare to consider. But on average, for most dogs, 8 for a German Shepherd sort of breed type dog.
What age do they start?
That can vary, really. So if they're course ready, 12 months, I suppose, is the earliest I'd put a dog on a course. We have had them on courses at younger, sort of 10 months of age, because then by the time they've passed the 3-month course and gone out, they're that little bit older, if that makes sense. But it's not ideal. You want them ideally 12 to 15 months, a bit more mature or starting to mature more. They can cope with the pressure of the course, pressure of the training. It's the repetitiveness of it every day for 13 weeks. So around that sort of age for retirement for a big dog, a little dog probably about 9, 10 for a spaniel. They because they're not as, it's all a game to them, so they can keep going a little bit longer. They're not as you haven't got the sort of the impact that the bigger dogs have to take. Majority of handlers keep their dogs because, as I say, you've got that unique bond. So we all keep them. Majority of us keep them. I have had to rehome a couple because my last 5 years were in the breeding program at West Mids. So I used to have a lot of young dogs at home, or problem dogs in the kennels, ones that were getting a bit stressed. We'd swap them over, and you'd bring a couple home here and that, So my older dog wasn't particularly good around younger dogs; he wouldn't tolerate them. So I rehomed my last dog. Currently, I've got a 10-year-old German Shepherd called Bandit. So he was the first puppy I ever delivered on my own in the breeding program. I named him after a charity I work for. And then when he retired from his last handler in 2017, I was at Crufts actually setting up, and they told me he'd retired and been rehomed. I was like, oh, gutted I'd have had him, because I hadn't got a dog at the time. And then lo and behold, on the Thursday, the handler came into Crufts and said, oh, the lady who's had him doesn't want him, she can't cope. So he's been here for about 3 years now, sort of thing.
That's good.
So we've got quite a bond anyway, because I'd had him as a puppy, and then he went off to one handler. Circumstances changed there, and then he got rehandled again. Sadly, the first handler passed away, so the dog got rehandled to another handler, and then there was a change again. So as I say, I ended up with him. So occasionally we will rehome, but not without a lot of scrutiny and checking. So, but as you would with any dog, the only thing for it depends on what amount of training that dog's had. So if it's been taught to bite, is the dog a professional person? So I've recently rehomed a dog from the force I work for now to a professional dog person. So this person's got kennels, and they've got all the setup to cope with this dog. But we still have to do like a risk assessment, that they know what the dog's capable of. They know, I had to be satisfied the dog's secure, what circumstances the dog's going to be exposed to, and that's all documented.
At the end of the day, you're protecting that dog's life, aren't you? Because if it were to do something, then it's going to have to be destroyed. And
the organisation as well, being brutally honest. You've got to protect the organisation. So we do rehome them. I mean, you'll see a lot of things. What you tend to see is a lot of people go, I've got an ex-police dog, and what you probably tend to find is they've got a dog that's failed assessment. That's majority of people, or dogs that.
And we all like a big story, though.
So there's a lot of people out there with retired police dogs, and a lot of people have trained lots of police dogs, but.
And everybody knows it all. I went and did a house visit the other day, and my mate down the road, he said, I've got to do this. And I said, right, imagine I'm an electrician and I've said to you, don't push that switch. Yeah. Would you push that switch, or would you listen to your mate down the road?
Yeah.
Because everybody knows how to train.
They're all experts.
Everybody's an expert.
But that's even in the dog world as well, though, isn't it? To be honest, it's like, everyone, there is no book, is there? That's the thing. There is no book, but it does make me laugh.
Yeah, but my book's right.
You can have 5 people sat around the table all arguing the same point, and they'll all disagree to disagree, and they're all saying the same thing. That's the dog book, and it makes me laugh. But they're all saying exactly the same thing.
We're opinionated, don't we?
Yeah. But we all take different routes to get to the same end, don't we? It also makes me laugh. I listen to some people, and I wouldn't have done it like that. I wouldn't have done this like that. And you think, okay, so how would you have done it then? And they give you their option of how they do it, and then you think, but the end result's still the same, and all you've done is circumnavigate just a slightly different way around, but the dog's still doing the same behaviour.
I always say that from a training point of view. Like, as long as you and your dog understand it and it works and nobody's getting hurt, then
don't matter, does it?
And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Just do what needs to be done. Yeah.
Terry, I could honestly chat to you all day long, honestly. And when we switch off strip, can you just stay online? I've just got a couple of little questions that I want to ask you.
Yeah, cool.
Sadly, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, so we're out of time, so we'll wrap that up. It's been brilliant, Terry. Really
maybe we'll have you on again, Terry, as well.
We might be able to expand a little bit more.
We'll go more specialist on something or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's brilliant. Right, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon.
See you soon.